Welcome to another episode of Tales from Tatooine podcast. I'm Jacob.
I'm Fish.
And we have a very exciting episode today.
Very
much looking forward to this one. Today's episode is actually going in the opposite direction of last week's. We're going to discuss what we believe Rey's lineage is. And that lineage?
Palpatine.
Being a Palpatine. This is a relatively popular theory that we'll go into. In my opinion, airtight. Very few.
Fits the best by far.
I mean, there's definitely going to be some changes, but we'll go over that. It's going to be fun. But first, the news. There's been quite a lot of news this week. Some very important news. Huge news.
Very exciting news.
Funny news, considering we just talked about it last week, and it dropped like the next day. But the first being that they have officially announced a new trilogy being headed by Rian Johnson. I know. I'm so...
Completely separate from the Skywalker story, too,
Yes.
which is, oh my God.
They didn't give us a time frame. Or, anything other than one. It's going to take place with characters we have not seen before in a part of the galaxy we've never visited.
Yep.
Which means it's going to go away from the Skywalker story, which is fantastic.
Very exciting. I love the Skywalkers, but it's time to move on.
Yeah. It's very likely, or I guess we shouldn't say it's very likely. It's fingers crossed that it goes into some Old Republic stuff.
Absolutely.
Which I'm fairly certain, again, like we said last week, that part of the story in The Last Jedi is going to go back. And I think it's setting up for this next trilogy.
Give us a little taste.
Yeah, which is probably going to be back. Which is, it's going to be so good. So exciting. And then they announced in the same release that they're going to create a live action
on the streaming service.
On the Disney streaming service. Which the second they drop, they take all my money. But apparently it's going to be less than Netflix, which is great.
Netflix keeps raising their prices all the time, so
I don't care. I'll always have Netflix.
I'm going to bitch about it forever.
I know. $2. It's been 10 years. $2. But there's no details about that. Maybe that's a continuation of the Skywalker story. I doubt it.
There's so much story. Like we can get away from the Skywalker line on both aspects and do just fine.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's tons of lore to work with in what's considered Legends now, of course. But the idea of having a live action that comes out in 2019, so not even that long from now. The same year that Episode 9 will be dropping, we'll get this new show, which I think would probably tie into it somehow, because you have to have a nice transition between the two.
Probably.
You can't have like one that's...
Or it'll tie into Rian Johnson's trilogy, which also is supposed to drop 2019?
No, they didn't give us a release date, I don't think.
It's something we should look into.
The press release was a little confusing, because they did 2 releases at once.
I have it.
But we have it. Look at that.
Prepared.
Hashtag best co-host ever.
Ha!
Yeah. So, Star Wars series launched in 2019.
Separate from the Skywalker saga.
Yeah, so we'll get separate Skywalker saga. Corner galaxy, the Star Wars lore has never before explored. Now, this can mean 2 things. It can mean that the shows and movies and novels that have currently been released haven't explored, or it can even go so far as saying lore that even Legends hasn't explored. Like whole brand new spanking
stories.
new.
Well, I never thought of that.
No release date. That's okay. I'd have to assume they'd keep up the same trajectory of their release dates. Episode 9 comes down in 2019, so we probably wouldn't see this until 2021.
2020.
Probably have some more anthology films in there. Or maybe if they're dropping this show, that they will be skipping over another anthology film.
Don't say that.
I'm just saying. I don't want it to be so,
Don't
but
say that.
I mean, there's not a lot of consensus on what their anthology films are going to be. Palpatine Anthology, Disney. I know you've watched this.
Oh, make it happen.
But who knows? Maybe that's the way they're going. Maybe anthology films seem a little bit untestable, a little bit weird. We'll see.
So much coming.
But regardless, this is fantastic news. Let's see here. Oh, they're coming out with a Rogue One sequel comic book, which isn't a Rogue One sequel that takes place with the same characters. Hashtag spoilers, they all die.
Yeah, that would be impossible.
Right. Apparently it takes place at the locations that Rogue One took place at. And if it's Luke, Leia, and Han doing, I guess, research or looking into the events of Rogue One. So when the Death Star was tested, they're looking at that planet. They're Jedha. They're looking at, I guess, Saw Gerrera's group. They're still surviving members. So it kind of takes place.
That could be interesting.
But the details are sparse. They only released 3 pages so far, just kind of a teaser.
Not much to work with for a story there.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully it ties in pretty well. The storyline for Battlefront 2 is giving us a lot of information about the storyline.
Yeah, lots of news out there on all aspects of that game. People mad about characters and
I just want the storyline. I don't care about anything else. I just want the story.
Bitching more about how long it takes to unlock a character than anything else. Just play the game.
Just play the game,
If you play the game, you'll get your people.
Obviously, you've never played Skyrim.
Right. You want to play for hours.
1,200 hours.
Come on, people.
Fun news. Google Earth. Someone found the Millennium Falcon hidden amongst a bunch of shipping containers. Good job, Disney. Oh, it's a good thing that wasn't anywhere near where I live. I would take it piece by piece.
Oh, yeah.
Rebuild it in my garage.
Is your garage big enough?
I'll tear down my garage and we'll just build it on the lot. They're releasing a Padme novel, a young adult novel, they call it. I'm assuming it takes place pre-Phantom Menace. Again, details are very limited, but it's good to have these character novels come out, or character comics even, give us some details about these characters that the movies just can't explore, the comics can't explore. And the solo image on a cup from Arizona was huge on the internet.
Big. First image new Han Solo
was fake.
Yeah.
It was.
They just put his face over the top of an old Han Solo.
They took a Han Solo photo, Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And then they took the head from the promotional photo that they released when the cast was together, and they just photoshopped it on top.
Stuck it on a cup. Didn't even ask permission.
Yeah.
But
so, sorry, folks. That is not
real.
That's very much not what he's going to look like. And when you look at the image now, you can tell the head's way too big for the body.
Nice Photoshop work.
Oh, you crazies. And then, we're getting a release of a bunch of Last Jedi books on the 15th of December. One of them being the in-depth look at The Last Jedi, which is the weapons, the spacecrafts, the characters, some backstory. This is the same series of books when The Force Awakens was released that we got information on Kylo Ren's lightsaber and the Knights of Ren. The broken Kyber crystal, the ancient Sith design. This is all information that was within this book. We're getting another one on the 15th, which is a must-have.
We should probably have these.
Of course. It gives you information that, again, it's just like the novelization of the movies. It just gives you a little bit of tidbits that kind of help fill out the story, which is so very important to have. And that's it for news. You have anything else? No?
That's it.
Awesome.
Everything else is quiet.
Today's episode is going to be a fun one.
Probably the best one we have.
Definitely the one we talk about the most. That is the Rey Palpatine theory. Now, we first came across this theory from a video made by a YouTuber named Vincent Vendetta, and it blew my mind. So at first, my thought was that she was a Kenobi, which has its merits. Time-wise, it works. But there's a few problems with it. Her pull to the dark side is definitely something that needs to be considered a big part of this, amongst other reasons. But obviously, Kenobi has no pull to the dark side. The dude gets angry once.
Yeah,
for the most part.
He's so tight with following the Jedi rules and things like that.
I mean, there's still merits to it. I would say it's far more likely than her being a Skywalker.
Oh, absolutely.
Of course. But the Palpatine theory is very popular. A lot of YouTubers have talked about it. We've watched a lot of videos on it. There's a lot of consistency in the narrative. Today we're going to be going over some reasons that we find most convincing. And we're going to do our best to tear those apart. Because it's actually very difficult. Because they're so solid.
This one.
Yeah, it's very solid evidence. With very few issues that need to be addressed. And honestly, they can be addressed with a simple, short piece of dialogue. But without further ado, the Rey Palpatine theory. I'll let you start.
So, we can start with a little bit of history of Palpatine, kind of where he comes from and his own family lineage and what happened and so on. So he was born into a pretty prestigious family on Naboo. He was the oldest born of 5 children, 2 younger brothers, 2 younger sisters. Names of them we don't have. We don't have the name of his mother. Just that his father was involved politically with the happenings of Naboo, and in growing up, he was a troubled child. His father hated him, even told him at a very young age, he was about a teenager when his father told him this, supposedly, that he wished that he had killed him at birth because he was so troublesome. His father used his political powers a lot to keep Palpatine out of trouble. He met Plagueis when he was about 17, 18 years old at a conference that he was with his family. And he had talked to Plagueis about his family and told him how he hated them and all this anger he had towards his family. And Plagueis had told him to take any means necessary to separate himself from his family. So he kills his family, 17, 18 years old. I mean, and this is a pretty consistent thing that we see with Palpatine and his apprentices that he takes on. Like, he has Anakin killing younglings and Dooku, and Plagueis used this against Palpatine during his training to help keep him focused on that anger. Yes, and so after he killed his family, he did away with any and all records tying to his family. Did away with his first name, Sheev. I would have done that also. So there's no record among all these people, the people of Naboo or in the Galactic Empire. It's not the Empire yet, but there's no record of his family. He did away with all this for a purpose. He didn't want anybody to know where he came from. So after he did all of this, he continued working with Plagueis, obviously, and on the side, he was trying to create an ultimate heir to his throne by means of using his DNA to kind of like a clone, making clones or whatever. A lot of really failed attempts at this, and then he had a
which is really important to understand. And there's in canon some of the Vader comics. We find out that he created like cyborgs.
Yeah, they were
to be apprentices and stuff. And
Yep.
So his ability to try to create life, not in the way that's talked about concerning like Plagueis, but not only his search for immortality, but him creating a perfect lineage. It's a very important part of his story arc. Not all of it canon, but there's definitely some strong hints in canon that his ultimate goal was to create like a dynasty in a lot of ways. which is an important part of the Rey Palpatine theory, because we don't know for sure just how in-depth he went in some ways. If he first began his trials through natural means.
Yeah, we don't know that. We do know that he had a lot of failed attempts. A lot of freaks were made. There's supposed one that did survive named Triclops. And, he didn't continue in the Palpatine line or whatever. He was sent away because had 3 eyes and he wasn't good enough for Palpatine or whatever. So his lineage was also hidden. He ended up later on marrying and having an offspring, supposedly Ken. Yeah.
Good old Ken.
Good old Ken. You're hidden away and underneath a Jedi temple because he was taken from his father and all this. Somebody knew their lineage. He didn't know. Ken didn't know. Nobody told him. So there's this Palpatine wandering around, supposedly. So, I mean...
This plays an important role in
He was
the
force
idea.
sensitive, though, too.
And good with tech.
Very tech savvy.
And not a Skywalker.
And mind control. And not a Skywalker.
It's important to have a little bit of context about who Palpatine is. His power was exceptional.
Absolutely.
I think midichlorian count in canon, it's hard to find exact numbers, just kind of rumors, being higher than Anakin's.
Yes, and supposedly Anakin's was higher than Yoda, so do the math.
Now, of course, midichlorians, as anyone would know, is not a direct indicator of force power. It's just means that you have a higher capability of being powerful in the force. But Palpatine is very high, and there's some information about the way he uses that power beyond the trying to create his dynasty that we'll get into in our Snoke podcast. But in comparing him to Rey, his background matters because there's a lot of similarities. His pull to the dark side was always there.
Oh, he was a champion speed racer too, so he was a natural pilot and not a Skywalker.
Unless he was a Skywalker. And this whole thing is just all Skywalkers.
Well, I mean, with another rumor or whatever is that he created Anakin in his dabbling with creating life and whatever. Supposedly he did this from the Force and the whole divine whatever.
Adam and Eve Skywalker.
Yeah,
Everyone's
pretty
a
much.
Skywalker.
Everyone.
In the entire galaxy is a Skywalker. This is a fact. Canon, we're saying it. Everyone's descended from the same Skywalkers. Yeah, so who Palpatine is in the way that he behaves, the way he fights, the way he manipulates, all these things are important. Because you see little tidbits in Rey. But again, you really don't want to compare very simple things that could be part of just about anyone. It has to be very specific things.
Yeah, the fighting style was a popular one.
Yeah, fighting style is a popular one.
There are 7 fighting styles used by the Jedi. Palpatine was a master in all 7. He's one of the very few who could master all 7. But there was the one that he chose to use the most was the most dangerous fighting stance to take. He hated using a lightsaber. He said it was for mere Jedi and that he was above that. Always carried one with him, can use it. Chose not to unless he had to because he felt that he was above that.
Yeah. Raw power doesn't need a simple tool.
Yeah, who needs a lightsaber when you have electricity right out of your fingers?
And we see that because he doesn't use a lightsaber.
Right.
When we first meet him, he doesn't use a lightsaber.
He doesn't use
the original.
In any of the originals, not until the prequels.
Not until the prequels.
Because he don't need it.
Doesn't need it. He almost used the lightsaber when Mace Windu came to get him, kind of as just a show of power over them.
I can do this
I'm better
too.
than you.
Yeah.
Simple Jedi.
Yes. You are worthless.
Yeah. I will use lesser means to destroy you because you are worth lesser things.
Yes.
Now, the fighting style is probably the only one of the theory parts that I found a lot of pushback against. Mm-hmm. Most notably, a big part of it is when she pulls her lightsaber up into it to do a stabbing motion, which is hotly contested amongst some people on the internet. Which I get.
They're the only two people that use that fighting style, though. And
it's
not a very good fighting style.
It's not.
It opens you up to attack so much easier, but he chose that because he was good enough to use it.
I mean, the argument, I guess, isn't that it's innate in her to use that fighting style, because that's a little weird. That's a little far-fetched. It's more of Disney's very particular, and they are very meticulous in their details with a lot of things.
Yes. They don't do this for no reason whatsoever. There's a reason for everything that they do and say.
I mean, we know we have voices in the background of Force visions. These things are put there for a very specific reason. There's no reason why she would bring her lightsaber up like that if Disney wasn't at least attempting to give us some kind of insight.
And the same facial feature expressions while using this fighting style mirrors Palpatine almost exactly.
Yeah. And a lot of people say that isn't a point towards Palpatine, but she uses it when she's tapping into the dark side of her Force. And that pull to the dark side is another very important point. Now, Luke, of course, had a pull to the dark side. There's no reason to suspect that Jedi never had pulls to the dark side. I'm sure even Yoda in the beginning, 900 years ago, had pulls to the dark side, because dark side is very powerful.
Very powerful.
And overcoming your emotion, it's a very hard thing for Jedi to do. But again, that in and of itself is not the indicator. It's Disney's use of it in the way that they do. In the novelization, she hears a voice telling her to kill Kylo.
Kill him.
That is not just simple, you're feeling angry, dark side, Obi-Wan, when he fights Darth Maul, dark side anger, whatever. It's very meticulous.
It's a dark and sinister voice.
Dark and sinister.
Never says whose voice it is, but it's implied that it's a voice from the dark side.
Yeah.
So
there's, a lot of pushback against this as well, only because other characters have been pulled to the dark side. But each one of those characters pulled to the dark side was a show of their lineage. Luke pulled to the dark side because of his father.
Because of Vader.
Kylo's pulled to the dark side because of his grandfather. Of Vader. Now, we can say, of course, the argument like, she's pulled to the dark side because of Vader. But this one's a bit different. This one wasn't enticed out of her like the other ones. Luke being enticed by Vader, Kylo being enticed by Snoke. This was innate. This came from within.
Automatic.
Yeah. That's the big difference. Her connection to the dark side is in her. I think that's an important part of it. Again, you have to also think of how Disney is making these movies. Disney doesn't do anything unless there's a purpose to it.
Correct.
They're super meticulous about this kind of stuff. And if it can, some stuff might be dumb or kind of messy and doesn't have a nice flow. But details like this, I mean, the fact that they had a reason from the beginning as to why Kylo's lightsaber was a bit of a sputtering mess.
Sparkly.
Which I think his sparkler sword. We'll see that there was a reason for that. Very likely in The Last Jedi with Kyber crystal, the reason that his Kyber crystal's cracked and all that. And we'll see it. These things are on purpose, and that is an important consideration. It always has to be. You have to think of this from a storytelling perspective, from a company that spent billions of dollars on a product that is Star Wars, and the idea that they wouldn't do it on purpose is just insane, and I would say laughable to think otherwise. Want to welcome back our special host today, K2SO, as you can see. Her pull to the dark side is important. The voices she hears is important. This includes the Palpatine voice. She very clearly hears in her Force vision when touching Anakin's lightsaber. All of these things, again, are put in there for a specific reason by Disney to tell their story. And in that very scene, we also get another point, which is Maz telling Rey after the vision, when she wants to go back to Jakku, that no one is coming back for her.
Your family is gone.
And
nobody's looking for
her
you.
story is forward, which is important. Specifically, she says, Han told me, they hold hands. Dear child, I see your eyes. You already know the truth. Whomever you're waiting for on Jakku, they're never coming back. But there's someone who still could, and that's Luke. Maz doesn't say Luke, but Rey does. Now, this is, again, important. If she was a Skywalker, it would have probably been told in a very different way. Not that you have to go find Luke who wouldn't come back for you, but they're never coming back. They're never coming back. Now, this is interesting for two reasons. One, Rey is not the daughter of Palpatine.
No, that time.
Surprisingly, I've heard this. He dies like 15 years before she's born. So come on. It's simple math. But some kind of descendant. Now, I have an idea that this may not be direct, like a grandfather. As we said, he had family that he killed. Some of it's murky as far as what's canon and what's not. But it could be that she's a niece or grandniece, something like that.
I mean, it could be. Or, I mean, according to the timeline, he was 17, 18 years old when he killed his family. He was the eldest. So, I mean, if we follow that...
Could be. Or an early clone experiment. It would have to be Rey's parents would be this clone.
Yes. Yeah.
The mom or the dad, one of the two, would be the direct from Palpatine. So
his mistress, who you can see in the background in some of the prequels, even
bald
said
lady.
that, stole his DNA. I don't know how, and impregnated herself using this and gave birth. So this is. Also...
I mean, it's not unfair to say that he could have bred. He would see it as breeding.
Yeah.
And he would use that as an opportunity to create the lineage, and he may have found that his children weren't as force sensitive as he wanted.
Could be.
And it could have skipped a generation. Leia's not nearly as force sensitive as Luke is.
Right.
I mean, she's force sensitive. Let's not forget that, but not in the same way.
Right.
So there's the possibility that he was disappointed with his children and had them sent off, or tried to have them killed and they escaped. The mother of the children could have taken them. There's a lot of ways where Rey's parentage could come into play, and they have gotten away from Palpatine. So the idea is that they wanted to escape death, likely. They had other children. Snoke comes along. This force-sensitive child, Rey, is born when Snoke is regaining his power after the fall of the Empire. This parent knows that their father is Palpatine, and now they have this child who's probably showing signs of extreme force sensitivity, and they're like, holy crap,
Run away.
This ancient evil, which we'll get into in the Snoke video, is looking for this Rey, and we have to hide her, so we put her on Jakku, which is a planet full of light side energy, which the Emperor tried to have destroyed. Again, we'll get into that. And that's why she is orphaned.
That light side energy would cloud her.
Yeah, would kind of be a cloak over her dark side energy, which is what we believe Snoke would be looking for. But the other part of what Maz said that's important is it seems to imply that her parents are dead, but I don't think they are.
No?
I don't think so. I feel like just how I feel like Luke has to die at some point because that's part of the very specific storytelling of Star Wars, that there has to be like a mom involved. You know? Moms play a huge role.
True. They do play a very, very big role in all the Star Wars films.
Yeah. So I think...
Yeah, I'll buy that.
I think that's part of it, you know? So we'll see. They could very well be dead. Who knows? Who knows? I just had this one of those things, you know, I feel like Star Wars would have the mom in there just because Star Wars is Star Wars.
Everybody has mommy issues in Star Wars.
Everyone has mommy and daddy issues. Why don't you just raise your kids right, Star Wars? Things would be so much easier. Insert photos of the moms.
Yeah.
Important moms right here. Another point, her innate force abilities.
Yes.
So we see this, of course, in all the main characters of Star Wars, is their natural inborn abilities. And they all come at a very high price. And they all are from a very small group of individuals. And of course, because Star Wars likes to tell the Skywalker story, it's always brought up against the Palpatine story. So those are the two story arcs that they follow, and they coincide with one another. They're part of the same system. And her innate abilities, because she's not a Skywalker, would have to, in their storytelling, be from a Palpatine. So it's almost like a lazy bit of storytelling that kind of proves that she's a Palpatine.
Well, they gotta have some of that laziness for the casual viewer.
Yes, we have to remember Star Wars. The movies are made for the casual viewer. All the other stuff is for the deep fan. But yeah, knowing that Disney has to, they don't have to, but they will, because it's Disney, stick to a very certain formula. Her innate abilities coming from Palpatine makes sense. It has to come from someone that we know. I very much doubt that they would just bring in a random family.
New. Not this late in the game.
No, it's just because they're Disney, and that's how they do it. Look at all the Marvel stuff. It took a very long time for them to break the mold, and they only broke it a little bit. Just a little bit. Just give you a little something different. But the Rey Palpatine, Kylo Ren, Skywalker Palpatine conflict is also their small break from storytelling, because Kylo Ren's not going to go light side, Rey's not going to go dark side. She might get a pull. They might both feel a pull towards it, which we'll see play an important part in what they reveal to be the true nature of the Force, which is a whole other episode. But her becoming like Darth something, you know, revisiting the Sith and him going back to being a Jedi, that's lazy on a scale that
Darth
even
Sheev.
Darth Sheev. I take my family name, Sheev.
It's terrible. It's so bad. And the Palpatine thing fits because all the Star Wars have always been Skywalker versus Palpatine in one way or another.
Yeah.
Tell 'em.
And that, again, is another reason it's great they're going past the Skywalker. She knows. It's another good reason they're going past the Skywalker story arc for the new trilogy, is because you just can't keep playing with the same
We go back to the circle we talked about last time. We've got to move forward.
But showing that a Palpatine can be light side and a Skywalker can be dark side is going to be important in some of the bigger reveals in the story. Her parentage is just one part of the very big twists and turns that we're going to get. Who is Snoke? What's the nature of the Force? What's Luke been up to? Why did he, what turned Kylo? What's going to come of Kylo? Like, all these big questions. Her parentage is probably not going to play as big of a role as we want, or feel like it will, like we want it to, because these other things are all tied up into it. So it's just one piece of the big puzzle that's not going to be the reveal of Darth Vader being Luke's father. We're not going to get
that. That was huge.
We're not going to get that because we kind of expect something like that now. You really can't top that. I mean, come on. No. And also, this all kind of fits into the timeline of who she is, being some kind of granddaughter or grandniece, something like that. She's born 15 years after the fall of the Empire. Is that right?
Where's our timeline?
Where's the timeline, damn it?
In the other room.
Yeah, something like that. But born way too long after his death to be... Should I just dub over your voice with like heavy Darth Vader breathing?
Oh, can we do that?
Good? I think I can.
Yes.
The timeline fits her being some kind of not a daughter, of course, likely granddaughter or grandniece, and it all works out just like the Kenobi timeline works out pretty well. The Luke timeline does not work out. Again, it just doesn't fit.
It's the hardest one to make.
Yeah, this one, if you take into account like they have kids at like 18 to 20, it works very well. We talked about her hearing Palpatine's voice in her Force vision. Mm-hmm. Again, Disney does things on purpose. They wouldn't put him in there for no reason. No, not at all. I mean, it's so random.
I mean, they could pick anybody.
Yeah, and they do. I mean, you have Kenobi in there. They have Yoda in there. They have Luke in there, don't they?
In 7?
Where he says, no, they don't. No, they don't. Yeah. Regardless, it's a very important part of it. Disney knows what they're doing, people. Deal with it. Deal with it. Also, it gives her a conflict to overcome. If she's descendant from what can be argued as one of the greatest evils in the galaxy, she has to overcome that. And that ability to overcome helps develop her story. If she was a Skywalker, it would be her story of living up to the Skywalker name.
Which I think would be probably a lot easier than trying to fight the darkness that's in you. It's born into you. I mean, you can see how much she enjoys touching into that. Like in the scene where Kylo's trying to read her mind, you know, when and she's fighting back and reading his mind back, the look of pleasure. She loves it. She's so dark. Yeah. And she loves it.
Yeah, that in and of itself helps create her as a character.
And you see that same kind of pleasure when she's fighting Kylo, you know, and she's pacing, he's on the ground. Yep. She could have killed him. Yep. She didn't.
That fight against her innate darkness from her Palpatine lineage is just so good. It's so tasty on the lips. And, you know, a small part of you wants her to give in, to go full dark side.
A large part of me wants her to give in.
But they won't do that. Come on, people. It's Disney.
Yeah, I know.
But
keep it happy.
Keep it family-oriented. No decapitating Kylo.
Oh, come on.
That would be pretty... That would be a twist. They're just fighting anywhere. And she just like straight cuts his head off.
Well, at that scene in the novel, or in the script, sorry, it says, and she could kill him right now with one vicious strike. But she stops, realizing she stands on the greater edge than even the cliff, the edge of the dark side.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, yeah. Tastes good.
It's so good.
Yeah, I love it. And we'll see that come into play. We already kind of see it in the trailer. Again, red herring with some of the, what do they call it? The Reylo. Is that what it is? Reylo.
What?
The mixture like Kylo Ren and Rey getting together.
Oh God.
Reylo.
Yeah, no. No.
So they're definitely trying to tease us with that, but come on. Even if she feels like she can pull him to the light side, which I kind of see them putting in the story, like her, I have to help him. He's struggling. It ain't gonna work. He ain't going light side, people.
He's too Vader obsessed.
Yeah, not just that. I mean, he really does live in the dark side. The only thing that probably pulls him to the light side is Leia.
Mommy. The mommy issues.
And
I mean, I could see him going light side before I see Rey giving into her dark side completely. Anyway,
I also feel like if they did go, this is totally off subject, but if they made him go light side, they're just copying the Vader storyline with him.
Right.
It's like, come on, get over it.
Well, maybe he has to go light side because Vader never could.
Well, Vader did go light side in
Like
the
a
end
hot
there.
second.
Well, I mean, I guess that matters though. That cross into the light side at the very end, his transition back, and we see him
Pure redemption.
Right, pure redemption. But Kylo going light side is weird. Like it's so strange to think that he would just like, oh,
Maybe it's just because I see him as so much weaker than her that he would just like give into that.
I think it's his weakness that makes him give into the dark side, and it's her strength that makes her not give into the dark side.
That's fair.
And I mean, I don't want to see him walking around in like some Jedi robes, lanky ass body.
Looking like
he's gonna grow a beard.
Oh,
He's gonna become Obi-Wan obsessed.
If you're gonna paint that image, never mind. I take it back.
That and his obsessing with Vader is important too, because no one knows that Vader went light side.
Right. Just Luke.
Just Luke. I very much doubt that he's like, oh yeah, your grandfather, Darth Vader.
Yeah, no.
Totally
Maybe
killed
Leia
him.
and Ben, or not Ben, Han.
Maybe. But
that's it.
I don't think Kylo would know.
No.
Or even if he did know, he would never accept it.
Right.
Because you can't be that Vader obsessed and know and accept that Vader went light side at the end. You know, that just doesn't make any sense. One interesting point of her being a Palpatine is actually brought up in the trailer. So we know in the trailer, there's a scene that's made to seem like that Luke is talking about Kylo. He says, I've seen this type of raw power before. It didn't scare me then, but it does now. So a lot of people speculate that this is him discussing Kylo's destruction of his Jedi school, which doesn't make any sense. And
or
this is
that people say he's talking about Vader.
Yeah, which again doesn't make any sense. The Kylo one especially. Now, of course, they want this to be a Rey Kylo movie with Luke playing a supporting role, but he would not just blow off what Kylo did. And we know he doesn't because he goes into hiding after it happens. Like he's not like, oh, well, I wasn't scared when Kylo did it. 2 years later, I'm totally freaked out.
Yeah, no.
You know? No, it's not like that. We know that after the fall, he was devastated. The idea that he's talking about Vader is also a little bit strange.
Right. He faced Vader several times. He wasn't afraid of Vader. He knew who Vader was. He knew what Vader was capable. He felt more than confident in the fact that he could face Vader at any time. And he did several times. And he's fine. He may have lost an arm or a hand, but that's expected.
That's a Skywalker thing.
But there was reference made to a clip in Return of the Jedi where Luke goes to face Palpatine for the first time. Now, Luke, at this point, he's cocky. He's tiptoeing the dark side. He's confident, and he's never fought Palpatine before. He doesn't know what to expect. So he throws away his lightsaber in the movie. Like, I don't need this. I'm not afraid of you. Well, and here comes Palpatine with his electricity and damn near kills him. Okay, well, I would be afraid of that now, too.
Right. So he obviously wasn't shaken up by that power because he probably tried to dabble in the dark side after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Probably brought it into his teaching at the school. Not understanding what that kind of power means to the user and what kind of person you have to be to wield it. And that makes way more sense. Mm-hmm. He saw raw power.
Yes.
Not
power like he's never seen before.
Yeah. Not using a lightsaber well. Not flipping around like a ninja. No, just raw strength.
Mm-hmm.
And that coupled with her show of that raw strength, when we see the ground break, that's so much power just coming from her.
And the look on his face
Yeah.
when that happens, like shocked, surprised, terrified.
And he can sense. I'm very certain that he's gonna feel the same force energy that he felt when Palpatine did it from her when she's meditating.
Yep.
And she's not telling another thing is he's not telling Rey this part in the trailer. He's probably talking to a force
ghost.
But when you experience it yourself and it almost kills you, like it did with Luke, there's no way that he's gonna be like, you know what? We can control this.
Oh yeah, it's totally cool now. No
Yeah.
big deal.
That
scares the shit out of him.
Yeah, it fucked him up the first time. Hard.
Damn near killed him.
And now he's seen it again, and he knows what the dark side can do because it almost killed him again with Kylo. That's what's going to make him be such the disappointment to Rey, because her tie to an enemy he's faced already, he's going to have a hard time overcoming that. He probably will eventually, but the point being, he knows what she's capable of, and he knows that he's not capable of controlling that.
Correct.
So
maybe that's what he's been spending all this time out there trying to do, harnessing the dark side as well as the light side. Maybe he fails.
It's very possible, but
he can't teach her now.
Yeah, he's definitely afraid of it because of Palpatine. He's seen it in Palpatine, not in Rey, or not in Kylo, not in Vader.
Doesn't make sense with anybody else in any of the prequels or the originals or anything.
And I'm pretty sure that the reason they make the trailer scene so Kylo Rey heavy is they wanted to have that part in the trailer because it's amazing. Yeah. And they're like, shit. They're gonna guess.
Let's confuse the fuck out of everybody now.
Let's make it a love story. I should have added funny light rom-com music to the background.
Yes.
New York leaves falling.
Let's get all those stay-at-home moms in the theater too.
Can we do a cut right here where I do that?
Can you make that happen?
I think I can.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We're going to give you about 4 seconds. We'll watch it together.
That is good.
So ridiculous. I hope I make it, because that would be hilarious.
We're going to make that happen.
And again, there's not a whole lot of things that make this theory fail. Some of it's a little bit loose, it's all kind of superficial in ways that we're like, this doesn't make sense for her to be Skywalker.
Like the accent.
The accent's one. Accents are pretty heavy amongst royal families and stuff like that.
And it's reserved for high prestige family lines like Palpatine. Yeah. He came from a very prestigious family.
Like a Princeton.
And he has the accent.
I went to Harvard.
Yeah, just like that.
I went to Naboo University.
You're good at that.
That's because I went to Harvard.
Really?
No. I dumb.
Whatever.
Yeah. So a lot of it's superficial, but more when it comes to this particular theory, it fits in with a narrative that works much cleaner than the Skywalker theory. The timeline, the specific superficial ties are they're honed in. Mm-hmm. And they're honed in a way that we don't see elsewhere. We see it in Palpatine, and we see it in Rey. Very clear. We don't see it in others, and that's going to be important. But it begs the question is, why did Palpatine, what was his role with his children? How did they escape? When they had Rey, did Luke know about it? How did they hide her for the 8 years before she was left on Jakku? And we can assume that they know how to. Palpatine did it for decades.
Right.
A Sith trait that we can maybe part of his contingency before the fall of the Empire was to have his family take over, and we don't know where they were. There's a lot of missing pieces. They're not pieces that destroy the theory. They're just questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, they're just not out there.
Yeah, which we hopefully will see in The Last Jedi. I'm fairly certain we're going to get her lineage given to us in this movie.
If not completely, then I think we'll
At
definitely
least for the most
get
part. We'll know if she's
enough
a Skywalker
information,
Yeah.
to make
They'll,
more.
at the very least, give us that.
Yes, just say it.
Yeah. But this is all really important, too. The idea of her being a Skywalker just kind of fizzles the story. Again, she's just living up to Skywalker name. Basic same story as the original trilogy. Done and done. With her being the Palpatine, it opens up the gate for a more in-depth look at the very fine details of things like the Force or introduction of Grey Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
Which isn't technically canon yet. And they probably won't call it Grey Jedi. It'll probably be something else, but it'll show, they'll be able to discuss the true nature of the Force, which I believe is a constant and not split between light and dark.
Yep, it's one whole.
It'll give us a line that shows that you can have both and still do good. She'll be pulled to the dark side, and we'll probably see her fall even further into it, and yet she will come out on top, not going full dark side again. That'd just be fucking lame. But it allows us as the viewer to see a story that gives us hope in this character. And I think that's going to be a really important part of it, because I think that, as you can see in Rogue One, they're definitely pushing to give the Force something more.
Right.
It's not just biological that exists in the living Force.
Not just midichlorians.
Yeah, there's so much more to it. And I think they want to kind of dial back what the prequels did to the Force.
They kind of took away the mysticism of it. And
mysticism.
It's like a spiritual thing. Almost like a religion, but not a religion.
I mean, Maz is a good example, too, where she says that she's not Force sensitive, but she knows the Force.
Right.
It's
the blind guy, whose name I can never remember, on Rogue One.
Yeah.
Strong with the Force, but not Force sensitive.
Yeah, so I think they're using this as an opportunity, because we know that they're discussing 10 years of Star Wars, and probably further than that they have to kind of focus in on what they're building now that helps create better stories later. And her being a Palpatine contributes to that. Her being someone else does not. At the very least, her coming from a dark side family.
Oh, absolutely.
But what other dark side families do we really know and care about, I
mean, there's a lot, but none that we care about.
And the idea of her being from a random family just seems like there's too much we have to fill in all of this blank, You have to have some connection, because again, Disney, it's a family film. It has to have all the lines connect to a certain point, create the big picture. But
and if she's a Palpatine, I mean, maybe then we'll get a Palpatine anthology film.
Ooh.
Just give me that.
Ooh.
I could die happy.
I mean, they're talking about a Yoda anthology film. The Palpatine anthology film covers things that are super important.
Yes.
I mean, Plagueis. What the Rule of Two eventually culminated into.
All those contingency plans. I mean, there's so much. His childhood is so. I mean, he was reckless and dangerous and broke all the rules, and it'll just be an exciting movie and something dark side.
Give us some dark side
for once.
See, and it kind of fits into the themes that they're going with. So Rogue One is a war movie. Han Solo, the Solo film, is total Western.
Yeah.
What would a Palpatine movie be? Fucking horror.
A horror film.
Super awesome.
Disney, if you're listening.
We know you subscribe.
These are prayers. Answer them.
Yes. That would be amazing. And it brings in a part of the story that can contribute down the line to more stories.
Right.
Which is super important. I guess that's it for today's podcast. Yeah? Yeah. Seems a bit shorter than last time. But this is a topic that's very near and dear to us. Palpatine is an excellent character who pretty much, I mean, it can't be argued. He set everything in motion. Yes. Everything. All of this is 100% Palpatine. Where we're at now. That is amazing. That his character is of the utmost importance to the whole of the Star Wars saga.
Since the beginning. All the prequels, everything that you see was put in motion by things that man did.
Yeah.
Made happen.
Yeah. I mean, it could be argued that this isn't a Skywalker story. It's
a
Palpatine
story.
Leave us your comments if you agree or disagree.
All the comments. Give us things, something.
Give us things.
All the things.
We now have 2 social medias, here and here, Instagram and Twitter, at Tatooine Podcast on both. We like to post news on there as well, so keep in touch. We really appreciate you watching.
I hope you like this one better than the first one.
Hopefully we're getting better and not worse. We just keep digressing.
That would be terrible. We would keep going, though.
We would still keep going until it's just us with like a cell phone, like an old Nokia flip phone, and we're just holding it in front of us. Welcome to the Tales of Tatooine.
That could be us.
It could be us.
It's not good.
We really appreciate you watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. We'll see you next week. Welcome to Tatooine Podcast. It's actually quite a bit of news this week. Yeah? That one probably ruined the take.
Daddy has PTSD.
I do, man. It's going to drive me crazy until we get a flip out screen.